Hello everyone, my name is Yuko Tomizuka. I'm a global real estate investment advisor with 30 years of experience, and I have evaluated so far more than 20,000 of cases. Today, I'd like to speak something about the recession in terms of the context of how we overcome by implementing Japanese business philosophy. Why should your company be highly profitable? Only one preventive measure against a recession. It was around 2008, just after the Lehman Brothers crash. Mr. Inamori, the legendary Japanese entrepreneur, spoke something about the preventive measure to the recession and measures to be implemented to overcome the current recession. For this time, I'd like to share what is the most effective preventive measure against an unexpected recession, as we are now, and the measurement to survive that recession. First of all, let me write about the preventive action. What is a preventive strategy for Mr. Inamori to stress? For top leaders in Seiwajuku workshop. Seiwajuku is a sort of the workshop uh, arranged and organized by Mr. Inamori. Mr. Inamori said, profitability, number one is profitability, high profitability. Mr. Inamori has reiterated top management to deliver at least 10% of the net profit before interest and tax. Why did he put such benchmark of 10%? Number one, pushing people harder to achieve high goal. Number two, get themselves prepared for unexpected recession as we are now under COVID-19 pandemic. In Kyocera case, what happened during the previous recession? Kyocera also suffered the serious recession around the oil shock. It was 1974. The number of orders decreased day by day at the time of the first oil shock, and there was nothing to make. Kyocera orders just before the oil shock was 2.7 billion Japanese yen month, but it fell to just under 300 million yen in the same year. It was a very sharp reduction in orders. The production volume, which was 2.6 billion yen, had plummeted to 900 million yen in only 8 months. What did most of major manufacturing companies in Japan do to survive such recession? In such a terrible recession, large companies were forced to shut down one after another, or either dismissing employees or keeping them at home. On the other hand, what did Kyocera do for that recession? In such a recession, Kyocera had neither fired nor laid off, nor had them stayed at home. During the recession, Kyocera had kept sufficient profits while protecting the employment. As we had already had a highly profitable business model, we were able to accumulate sufficient retained earnings and our capital. Higher profitability has always been the first preparation for the recession. Furthermore, Kyocera was remarkably able to generate profit even under the recession. Why was Kyocera able to continue to make a profit without dismissing, even though it has such a reduction in production and orders? Inamori says the importance of retained earnings. If you increase your capital, the return on your capital, ROE, investment, equity may be decreasing. Yes, it may be. The ROE is gradually decreasing. Have shareholders ever complained such strategies and financial status? Yes, they have. Kyocera's management always holds an investment briefing session in the United States and Europe. Those investors asked Kyocera. Kyocera has a very high equity ratio. Therefore, ROE, return on equity, is low. How come you want to save money so much? We should use it for various things such as investing. That is an investor's desire. Please consider it. Kyocera's management come to Mr. Inamori and ask his words. Mr. Inamori told those management, you should ignore such investors. For us, for Kyocera, who have to run company for decades, stability is more important than anything else. It has enough preparations to withstand a hard recession. Look, guys, tell them, we have to protect the company, including our employees. And if you don't understand it, you are not the investors who we are looking for. That's it. Mr. Inamori encouraged top management and the Kyocera group. Therefore, has Mr. Inamori reiterated to be a highly profitable company to realize the company's long-term stability, hasn't he? Yes, he has. If you enter into a recession with little profit and little reserves, the company is highly likely to bankrupt. The president has always been worried and couldn't even sleep. Therefore, we as top leaders to work hard to live, we have to work hard to deliver the minimum 10% of profit. What about Japan now? Do many people get prepared themselves? Unfortunately, they don't. Due to this COVID-19 recession, the bankruptcy of hotels has appeared one after another. The hotel operators seem to have cash reserves for a couple of months, just a couple of months, maximum 6 months. If I were the top management of those hotel companies, I would be really worried if I have to pay a lot of fixed cost while managing capital investment. Until January in 2020, people enjoyed high profit realized by inbound policies. Most of Okinawa companies heavily relied on inbound demand. I wonder why they didn't make sufficient reserves around that time. So what are the lessons learned from this COVID pandemic? There cannot be a boom that surely lasts forever. The history has always taught us. So how much retained earnings should be saved from your point of view? Mr. Inamori referred the example when Kyocera entered the telecommunication business. In Kyocera, there seemed to be around 500 billion yen internal reserve, and Mr. Inamori asked other officers to use about one-third of that reserve, which means 150 billion yen. In case this telecommunication business fails, there should be more than two-thirds of the remaining internal reserves. That's why he convinced other officers to enter into this telecommunication business. So if he had failed the telecom business, do you think Kyocera itself has sufficient reserve for them to get recovered? For Mr. Inamori, one-third was very important threshold. What if the recession comes when the new business got considerable amount of loss? I feel Mr. Inamori probably asked to himself many times and simulated hundreds of times, I guess. But Kyocera finally started that new business, didn't they? Yes, they did. One of the Kyocera philosophy says we should be optimistic in dreaming and plan pessimistically and execute again optimistically. I think Mr. Inamori had all three roles in his mind. I think he was always simulating and thinking about what he could do if the worst case happened. Do you think it is a Japanese mindset, overcautiously in planning and conducting? Sometimes, yes. Last year, I had an opportunity to visit the Sumitomo Museum in Kyoto. Adjacent to the museum, Sumitomo Villa, which has a large garden. There was. It seems that the president of Sumitomo Group companies actually get together every year on the ballroom in the villa. At the time, there are some events to be held. One is that they visit the graves of the cemetery of those who have passed away, dedicated their lives to Sumitomo Group's business, and they give them a prayers. The other one is cross the copper bridge. Copper making was the principal industry that was developed under the Sumitomo Group. It seems that by crossing that bridge, they should carefully check the speculative strategies and ask themselves to take the safer side or not. Certainly, otherwise, it may not be a company that has been prosperous for hundreds of years. So, do you think that the key to become a highly profitable company is to keep always cautious? The recession comes in a cycle of every 10 to 20 years. When a recession first comes, people describe such changes to be unpredictable. If we cannot predict, all we have to do is just getting always prepared. We may have to be prepared for all the possible triggers to cause a recession. What do you think under the current COVID-19 recession? Obvious rainbows funds we have seen. For instance, most of the deficit we use the government reserves, like tax revenues. There's no magical fund in the world. And therefore, sooner or later, the industries which have heavily relied on government services will be suffer as the government cut their budget in many directions. Constructions, infrastructure service providers may suffer in the next stage of recession. Bankruptcy and M&A will be seen in the natural consequences. So to sum up, what we should do for the recession following the COVID, people understand that it is during the bullish market to pile up the reserve and get ourselves to be well prepared for the recession.